All right, let's go ahead and get started here. My name is Julia Ryan, and I am going to be your trainer today. I've been with RMLS for a little over 22 years. So let's talk about tips and tricks for principal brokers. I hope that you're going to find what we give you informative. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. Got a lot of transitional slides here. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about terms because the terms for the principal slash managing broker are different from state to state. Washington, of course, calls them managing brokers. Principal brokers are in Oregon. But essentially, the job is exactly the same. This person is going to oversee all the licensees in their office. Okay. And make sure that they stay in compliance with state and national real estate laws. Now, brokers can be principal brokers, have principal brokers licenses, but the one that manages the office is the designated broker. Okay, and they have additional accesses to RMLS. So essentially, depending on how you are set up with us, that's going to determine what you're actually going to see. So for example, even though your license says that you are a principal or managing broker, if you are registered with us as with a user level of AA or agent access, you're only going to see things that a typical agent is going to see. Whereas if you have BR level, you're going to see a little bit more. If you have HB, you're going to be even higher. So it really depends on how you're registered with us. Okay. So let's talk about some of the things that we're going to cover. We're going to cover a little bit about who you contact when you need help, us or the Board of Realtors. Because a lot of times we get very confused. People call us for things that they need from the board and vice versa. So it's good to know which of us you need to contact right from the get-go, because it just saves you time. Not that we mind at all. We don't mind referring you over and helping you as best we can, but if you get right to the source, it's better for you. We're also going to talk about some rules, what you need to know and what you need to do about the rules. We're going to talk about managing your office and staff. And a lot of the things that we have in RMLS Web, once you are set up as a head broker with us, is going to change in RMLS Web. So we're going to show you some of those. And then, of course, there's a lot of other additional resources that are available to you once you become a principal broker or managing broker. Okay, so where to send the broker and for when. Okay, so if you have a new broker, okay, and they ask you about any of these topics, listing database for searching, central lock stuff, rules and regulations about cooperation between brokers, tools and training related to RMLS Web and partner tools, you're going to send them to us because that's what we do. Along with the tools and training, the partner tools, it's kind of a rule of thumb. If it's techie, it's probably us. If it's not techie, then it's probably your board. Your board is going to handle things like resources for your risk management, ethics enforcement. A lot of your continuing education is going to be handled through your board as well. They have the education club, and the education club is something that you can sign up for, and it just gives you access to all of their education for the year. So but that's typically done through the board. We have very little continuing education offerings, although we have a lot of education. Ours is more towards the technological side and therefore really doesn't apply for continuing education. We have one or two classes that qualify, but not as many as you would get from your association. And of course, it's the association that does all of your advocacy for realtors, the RPAC. They are spearhead all of the legislature and other governing bodies to make sure that no rules, regulations, policies, laws, or anything are passed that are contradictory to good real estate and land ownership. So let's talk a little bit about some important rules that we have. First off, where do you find all the rules and regulations? Well, in RMLSweb under Toolkit, there's an option called All Documents. It's in the Forms and Documents section. And you can just type in 1450 into the search box for that, and up will come our most current version of the rules and regulations. So it's document number 1450. And this is a living document. And essentially what that means is that the rules and regulations are being updated. I wouldn't say on a continuing basis, but they're updated quite frequently. We might have a major revision once a year, but it's not uncommon for us to have some minor revisions during the year as laws get changed, policies get updated or reviewed, things of that nature. So don't ever just print out a copy and keep it there and refer to it year after year after year, because it's not going to be the same this year as it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Okay? You really need to make sure that you grab the most current copy. Now, once you have the form open, a little tip and trick is Control F is universal in Windows for finding something. So if you hold down the control key, hit the letter up, and then you can type in whatever it is that you're looking for. For example, you might put in coming soon, or you might put in personal promotion. Whatever it is, whatever the topic it is that you're looking for within the rules and regulations, that Control F will help you find that. And that's not just in our documents. That's sort of a universal Windows thing for finding anything in a document. It's really, really very handy. Okay. So sanctions. Uh-oh. Okay, so what happens? Okay, so failure to comply with the rules and regulations of RMLS may result in action taken as described in section 4.2 above, blah, blah, blah. This is obviously an excerpt from our rules and regulations. In addition to any other rights and remedies of RMLS or other affected parties, the following specific violations carry potential fines and sanctions as listed below. So basically what happens is somebody does something they're not supposed to do, and they know they're not supposed to do it because A, we have the rules and regulations available for everybody. B, we go over a lot of the things that people make mistakes with or need to know right at the beginning in our orientation classes. Our orientation class is very heavy on rules and regulations. So brand new agents are supposed to take that class within the first 30 days of joining. So they should know all of these things right from the get-go and not get into any trouble. Okay, so what are some of these sanctions? Well, let's talk about the big six. Okay, these are the things that are most often violated or where we see a lot of mistakes being made. The 24-hour rule is number one. What's the 24-hour rule? Essentially, the 24-hour rule states that any change to a listing, a new listing, a price change, expiration date change, status change, the fact that the carpet, the wall-to-wall carpet was thought to cover hardwood floors. You've discovered that there's only a hardwood floor perimeter. The rest of it is particle board. Not that that's really it, but you discover that's not true. And once you discover that that's the case, you have 24 hours to make the change in the listing so that the listing is always as accurate as humanly possible. Okay? Now that 24-hour rule is 24 clock hours, excepting weekends, holidays, and postal holidays. And the reason for that exception is that several offices within our participant base do not allow agents to add and modify their own listings. They have support staff that does it, and support staff typically doesn't work weekends, holidays, and postal holidays. So the next one is marketing of a listing prior to RMLS publication. Well, the whole idea behind a multiple listing service is that we're cooperative. We're there to help you get in touch with other professionals so that you could all share data and all just have this robust database of information that you have access to, and everybody has a chance to get those properties sold. Okay? They have a chance to show them to all their buyers. Okay? It's just we're about sharing, okay? And if you start marketing a listing before you share it with the agents, then that sort of breaks the trust, okay? So we do have rules and regulations in place to prevent that. The next was the misuse of lockbox access device, okay? That lockbox access device is for you to use, okay? You can't let somebody borrow it. You can't, give access codes away. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in a few minutes. Obviously, you do not want to give out your password to anybody. Okay, we're actually sort of cracking down on that recently. We've got a new, I'm not going to say it's a software, but we have a new program written, or a new area written into RMLSweb that actually monitors how often there's overlapping logins, where people are logged in on 2 different devices in 2 different locations at the same time. Obviously, one person cannot be in 2 places at one time, so we're starting to monitor that, just because it's really not fair for everyone, or most everyone, to pay for an access when then other people are out there just sharing their information and not paying, but still getting full use of it. The next one is showing a property in coming soon, no showing status. So it's called no showing for a reason. Typically, the sellers are not ready to be showing that property, so you should not be showing the property. So showing a property coming soon, no showing status is a violation, as well as marketing a property in coming soon, no showing status. These kind of all go together, this marketing of a listing prior to RMLS publication. If you're not willing to share it with your fellow realtors, you really shouldn't be trying to share it with the public. Okay, it's just keep that board level. So the 24-hour rule, essentially, did something get signed? Okay, it may have started the clock. If it's a new listing, short sale pending lease option, accepted offers with bumpable buyers. We pretty much covered this a little bit while I was reviewing the list, but essentially any change to the listing, 24 hours. So the data accuracy area is the information published and disseminated by RMLS is communicated verbatim without change by us, okay? And is filed by the participant. RMLS does not verify such information provided and disclaims any responsibility for its accuracy. Okay? Essentially, we're relying on you, the principal broker, and of course the agents and staff that you manage to ensure that the information that you're putting into RMLSweb is accurate. Okay, so we do have a few data checks in there where we're looking for incorrect or missing information. Some of it's automatic. In other words, the listing won't publish if you don't fill in certain required fields. That we're also going to, and then there's other things that we rely on you to let us know about. For example, you were the buyer's agent on a listing. and somebody with the same last name as yours got put in, it was just a mistake on their end, you call us, we can get that changed. So sometimes we have to rely on our subscribers to let us know when something is not right. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about agents behaving badly, some of the things that we're talking about are things that I think we all kind of know really shouldn't be done. You don't solicit the listing of another agent while it's still on an enforced contract. Okay, that's we just know that. That's not just an RMLS rule, but pretty sure that's real estate law as well. Um, Misuse of the lockbox access devices. Okay, we talked a little bit about that, but I'm going to expand a little bit more. Okay, majority of the formal violations that we get, and we'll talk about the difference between informal and formal in a little bit, but essentially a formal violation is one where there's a paper trail on it. It's not just somebody calling and saying, hey, here's a heads up, but it's in fact somebody taking the time to fill out a formal form, send it into our rules and regs, and maybe even willing to go to a hearing on it. Most of these formal violations are based on agents providing access codes to buyers or non-Central Lock subscribers, okay, and that are getting into the property without a licensed broker. Okay, so a one-day code, contractor code, or Central Connect access code is given, if it's given to an individual, they need to be an appraiser or another real estate agent. So you've got somebody coming over from Bend to look at one of your properties. They're not a Central Lock user. You can grant them Central Connect access. Of course, you need to verify that they're a legitimate agent once you do that. However, you have to be very, very careful about who you give these to, and under no circumstances ever do you allow your agents to give these codes to a buyer. Okay, buyers should never be in the property, even if it's a vacant property. They should never be in the property unaccompanied. Um, so the next one is private IDs and passwords. Okay, so if you have, and you probably already know this, but if you have a need for staff or an agent has a need for a personal assistant to help them with whatever it is that they need help with, and they need RMLS access to do it, you can get them signed up as a staff or personal assistant with us. They'll get their own account, they'll get their own username and password, and it doesn't cost nearly as much as it would for a full subscriber. It's only $25 per quarter. And of course, you would have to agree to allow them to have that access. It's not something that an agent can just do. Okay, principal brokers do have to agree to allow personal assistants and office managers to have access, because it is happening through your office, and it's your responsibility to stay on top of that. Now, the personal promotion rule. Personal promotion is anything that goes into a public area of the listing or RMLSweb listing that would lead a reader to a specific agent, office, or to the seller. Okay, that's considered personal promotion. Okay, so listings submitted to RMLS may be used to provide information pertinent to the listed property only. Okay, and it cannot be used to provide broker, seller, or lesser contact information or to advertise its subscribers' services. Okay, this is by way of direct or indirect advertising, branding of the listing data. Branding cannot be in photos, public remarks, virtual tours. One of the biggest oopsies that we see when it comes to personal promotion is actually in the virtual tour. because the agents won't realize that when they set up a YouTube account and then they call it with their name and they've got their photo and their office logo there, and then they link that to their RMLS web listing, they're now in violation of personal promotion because their name, their photograph, and the office logo is all personal promotion, and that information was accessed via information from RMLS Web. So you have to be careful with that. Make sure that anytime a listing has branding, or anytime a listing has a virtual or video tour, and you want branding, that it only goes on your website or the agent's website, but it cannot go into RMLS Web. It has to be completely unbranded. Now, there's also one called conditions to compensation. Okay. The listing broker shall specify on each listing filed with RMLS the compensation offered to other RMLS participants for their services in the sale of such a listing. Such offers are unconditional, except that entitlement to compensation is determined by the cooperating broker's performance as the procuring cause of sale or lease. Okay. Placing prohibited condition upon offers of compensation is a violation, okay, and may be fined. So essentially, with one exception, and I think they need to write this in here when we're talking about this slide. Of course, your office can do the offers where this compensation is different if it's sold in-house. Okay, that is okay. Okay, you just have to note that in the listing that the commission differs if sold in-house. There's a field for that. But above that, there can be no other conditions. That's not really a condition of the sale. That's just kind of a heads up to let other agents know that that's in place. Okay, so be careful of that. You can't offer a big screen TV if they give a full price offer, or we'll only pay 3% with full price offer. Anything within 10,000 gets 2%. I mean, thinking people can get kind of funky with that, and that's just not allowed. Okay, it's you offer what you offer, and that's it. Now, availability for showing. Okay, with the exception of commercial lease and auction, and of course coming soon, no showing listing. All listings shall be available for showing immediately upon entry into the system. Okay, excluding listings which require all offers be read contingent on interior inspections. Okay, listings cannot restrict showings until a future date. Okay. So essentially, when you put a listing into RMLS Web and it's an active listing, you have to make that available to show. So anything that's an active, bumpable, or short sale pending, if an agent wants to show that property, you have to make arrangements to allow that to happen. Of course, with that one condition where listings are required to have offers made before an interior inspection, or contingent on an interior inspection. Okay, of course, one of the things that also falls into this is the showing instructions. Okay, all brokers should not show a property until they have checked the showing instructions and current status of the property. Okay, brokers are only allowed to show properties that are in active, bumpable, short sale pending, even if the house is vacant. Okay, or you can on occasion show a pending, provided you have listing agent and seller's permission to do that. I'm down in Douglas County, and we see that a lot, where we'll have a buyer that really wants a property. We'll have a seller that's got what they consider to be a precarious offer that they've accepted. Okay, it's in pending status because it's not a first right of refusal based on the buyer's sale of home, but they're really not sure about it. They really want to get backup offers. So that's kind of a soft area with pendings, but it is not a requirement like it would be for active, multiple, or short sale pendings, where you are required to allow an agent to show those properties, with that one exception, of course. Pendings is not that way. Pendings, it would be entirely up to the listing office and the seller to whether or not they want to allow that to happen. So to change tax a little bit, okay, and we're going to talk about waivers. Waivers are a way for subscribers that have a license, not non-subscribers, I should say, for licensed agents to have their licenses hanging in your office, but they don't need access to RMLS Web. Okay, so people that are on waivers may not engage in any of the following activities. Okay, they cannot transact any business listing, selling, or showing properties listed only in the RMLS multiple listing service. Okay, access to RMLS system other than personal assistance or administrative things, so they can't get into RMLS Web at all. Okay, and they can't ask somebody else to get in there and find the information for them. Of course, they cannot have access to any of the lockbox information or codes permitting them entry into the system, because essentially they're on waiver. Okay, so they're not in the business of selling real estate per se. Okay, they cannot have any contact information displayed on any marketing materials for an active listed property in the RMLS system. Okay, so you have to be very, very careful about who shows up on your office roster. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to CSN. Okay, coming soon, no showing. Okay. Properties in coming soon, no showing status may not be shown. End of statement. Showing a property coming soon, no showing status can carry a fine of up to $1,000 to be determined by the RMLS Rules and Regulations Committee, assessed to the listing broker and or the cooperating broker. And everybody knows that this listing is in coming soon, no showing status. All right, so let me give you a quick overview of what coming soon, no showing is all about. Okay, it's the status for short-term use. Okay, so no longer than 21 days ahead of the actual go live active date. Okay, and of course it needs seller approval. While it's in coming soon, no showing status, you do have 2 marketing avenues available, and this is a sign on the property, which clearly has a rider stating that it is coming soon. Okay, and of course flyers can be on the property as well, and those too have to say coming soon, but that's it. That's all the marketing that can be done on it. Okay, no other marketing can be done. These listings are excluded from all data feeds, so they're not going to go on HomeSnap, Realtor.com, any IDX, any virtual websites, ZipLogix, broker-specific feeds. They're not going to go anywhere, okay? Because they're not a listing yet. They're a listing that's coming up into the future. If your seller chooses coming soon, no showing status, and 21 days ends up being too few, you do have an avenue available to you to keep it off the market, and that is to change the status of the coming soon listing from coming soon to withdrawn. However, once you change it to withdrawn, your days on the market will continue to accumulate, because at this point now you have an enforced contract. Okay, and the days on the market measure how long you had the contract. And then once you're ready for the listing to become active, then you can just change the status from active, from withdrawn to active. Okay. Now, if you know or concerned that 21 days is not going to be enough before signing, you can go ahead and get the contract signed at any point. But at this point, coming soon, no showing really isn't going to work for you, because if they're not going to be ready to actually show the property and do anything until, say, November 1st, just have a date marketing begin on November 1st and publish it on November 1st. Just predate the contract. There's no reason why you can't do that. So marketing and listing, coming soon, no showing status. We already talked about the sign and the flyer. A broker may share coming soon, no showing listings with other brokers, their direct clients and current customers, and active RMLS subscribers only. Okay. So if you go to like a tour meeting that's made up of nothing but RMLS subscribers, you would be in good shape. But if your association has a tour meeting and half the people in that tour meeting do not subscribe to RMLS, you can't talk about that listing there. Okay, because now you're taking it outside your current clients and customers and active RMLS subscribers. So the next thing we're going to talk about is office exclusive listings. So an office exclusive listing is essentially a listing that is only in your office. Okay, you're not publishing it in RMLS. Okay, you're not sharing it outside of your specific office. Okay, when you have a situation like that, okay, you cannot do any marketing. That's a violation of the Clear Cooperation Public Marketing Rule. Okay, which basically, I mean, if you want to throw it into a nutshell, you go back to that. If you're not willing to share it with other agents, okay, you're not willing to share it with the public. Or I should say, if you want the public to know about it, you got to let other agents know about it too, or even first. Okay, so you can't have any no marketing, no marketing of it whatsoever on an office exclusive, with small exceptions. You can share it again with your direct clients and customers and anybody that works in your office or a branch of your office. So say you have, you're in XYZ Realty, and XYZ Realty has 5 offices throughout the Portland area. You can share that listing with everybody in those 5 offices. Okay, that's fine. But now let's say that you're part of a larger corporation / franchise. And we have ABC Realty, which is a nationwide franchise, okay, that has thousands of offices all over the United States, okay, 100 of which are in Oregon and another 150 in Washington. But you own one specific office of that franchise, ABC Realty, okay? You can only share that office exclusive within that one particular office of the franchise, okay? So the information can be shared within your brokerage, specific brokerage, okay, or firm, but not outside of it, okay? It gets a little wonky, wishy-washy. I wouldn't say wishy-washy, just gets a little confusing when you have these huge franchises. You just have to remember that those franchises are independently kind of owned and operated, and as a result, they do not qualify as being a part of your firm that you can share that information with. Right? Now, if for some reason public marketing is done on a listing that was exclusive, within 1 business day of marketing the property to the public, the property no longer qualifies to be excluded from MLS, and the participant must submit the listing to RMLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. Okay. Public marketing includes, but is not limited to, flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing websites, broker website displays, including IDX and VOW, digital communication marketing, email blasts, okay, multi-brokerage listings, sharing networks, and applications available to the general public. Okay, so essentially, outside of your little sphere, you probably don't want to go there as far when it comes to office exclusives. So for marketing which commences before the date the listing is required to be entered in RMLS, a fine of up to $1,000 in the event to be terminated rules and regs. There is no longer a 30-day waiting period to put the property into RMLSweb after the authorization to exclude. In the past, if you had a listing that was an office exclusive and then you decided you wanted to put it in RMLSweb, you had to wait a minimum of 30 days after the end of the contract before you could do that. That's no longer the case, okay? Because of NAR's Clear Cooperation 8.0 rule, which is the one that we just talked about, you have only that 24 hours. So, that sort of wiped that whole 30-day waiting period out. Okay. The listing broker will upload an office exclusive authorization to exclude from MLS and public marketing addendum directly into RMLSweb under the back office tab. Okay, so there's back office, and then on the left-hand side, there's an area that you have listing load in progress, new construction, but there's also submit excluded listing. That's where you go and you would just put in some basic information, the address of the property, some, basic dates, from and to kind of thing, and then upload a copy of this authorization to exclude form that's been signed by the seller. And that way we have it on file, and if anybody calls and says, hey, we know that Norma has this, yeah, Norma's a good person, we already know about this, she's got an office exclusive on it. Okay, so we've talked about some rules and regulations, and we talked a little bit about violations and sanctions and fines. We really don't like going there. Let's talk about how we find out about these things and what your recourses are when you become aware that something has happened and you want us to know about it. We're going to start with informal violations. Okay. We have two different types of violations that you can do: informal violations and then the aforementioned formal violations that we talked about before when we were talking about the key services. Okay. So informal violations are really exactly that, very informal. You can call us, you can email us. There is in RMLSweb a couple of different ways to let us know about something that's wrong in a listing. At the bottom of all the agentful reports, there's a button called report issue button, and you can use that to report a violation. This listing is active, but we submitted and had an offer accepted 2 weeks ago. Why is it still showing as active? But it can also be used for others, for other little things like, I think this map might be wrong. That report issue button is pretty generic. It's not just for formal violations. There's also, from the help menu, there's an option called questions and comments. And again, that's kind of a general area. You just pick a subject from the drop down and you can say, okay, this is the rules and regs thing in this listing. It's supposed to be, it's tomato, whether you use report issue or questions and comments. It's entirely up to you and your particular style. Of course, you can email dataaccuracy@rmls.com if you really feel more comfortable doing that, because it goes directly to them. And of course, you can always give us a call. Now, formal violations, as we talked about a little earlier, exactly that. They're more formal. This requires a specific specific form, document number 1452. It needs to be filled out completely and signed by both the reporting agent and the managing principal broker. Okay, they have to agree because this is something that's going to affect their office. Okay, so they have to be aware of that as well. So they've got to sign on it. They've got to sign it. Okay, and then once that's all filled out, they will submit that to data accuracy. You can email it as a PDF to that same email address, dataaccuracy@rmls.com. Okay. Then once they receive that report, they'll review it. They'll not only review the report, but they'll also go through and check the validity of it. And then move forward and decide what actions are going to be taken on that, whether they're going to sanction somebody, they're going to maybe roll it back a little bit and just go, hey, maybe we need to go a little softer in this case. So data accuracy will basically review the whole thing and determine what the next steps are going to be. Violations with sanctions that are less than $100 are basically handled by the data accuracy frontlines staff. So they'll look at this formal violation, and if it's a matter of saying, okay, so this listing got an offer 2 weeks ago, okay, but the listing agent's only been an agent for a month and a half. Okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt here. Let's see if we can get this fixed. Okay, if the violation is corrected within 7 days, then data accuracy is pretty much just going to waive it and just get a hold of the reporting person and say, hey, we contacted them, they got it fixed, it's all done, and let's just move forward. Now, if a subscriber refuses to make to correct it, okay, then the case is going to be reviewed by Rules and Regulations Committee, and they will decide whether or not to move forward and do sanctions. They will definitely contact the principal broker for the agent that's in violation and have a nice long conversation with them, and move forward. But there's no reason why a subscriber should refuse to correct a violation. Especially when it comes to, the status of a listing, because that's super important. We all have to be able to rely on that. And so a seller can't say, well, don't change the status because I don't want anybody to know that I have an offer in case something goes wrong. Well, I'm sorry, but, other agents and other buyers have a right to know that they're going to come up in second position or third position or something like that. And the only way they're going to know that right from the get-go is by the status of the listing. Okay, now major violations, totally different. Okay, violations of more than $100 are going to be reviewed by Rules and Regulations Committee. Okay, there are tiered sanctions, okay, and they're all spelled out within the rules and regulations. To be downright honest, they are part of this, but it gets kind of cumbersome going through all of those. Okay, if it's done within so long, then it's 50, and then the second one it's 100. It's just silly, and nobody ever remembers it. Okay. If sanctions are imposed, okay, the respondent, has the right to a hearing, appeal that. Say, wait a minute, no, that's not right. I need to sit down with somebody. And they're basically, those hearings are conducted in substantial accordance with the procedures applicable to professional standards hearings. So I don't know if you've ever been involved in associations professional standards situations. I actually used to teach that. But how that works is the Rules and Regulations Committee is basically working as a grievance committee, or what would be equivalent to a grievance committee at the association level, where they just take a look at what's going on, and if they think something is really wrong, or they're pretty sure something's wrong, they're going to put in the sanction. Okay, and then they have the right to appeal, and then it goes to a hearing, and another group, hears that, and it's conducted almost like a formal judicial type of thing, where both sides get to state cases and evidence, and then a decision is made along those lines. All right, so now let's talk about office management. Data feeds options, okay, providing your clients with RMLS access, okay. You can add a link or frame to homesnap.com on your website. So if you want to be able to send your clients and customers to your website and still have them access RMLS data, you can do that. Just frame or link homesnap.com on your website, or have your webmaster do that. The same thing, a direct data stream can be provided to your web developer as well. Okay, so if they'd rather just build a search engine right within your website, that can be done. There are specific documents that need to be filled out. For that to happen, it's document number 1910, the licensed agreement, the authorized subscriber agreement. But if you're not sure who to go to as far as providers of the data is concerned, we do have a list. Document number 1990 has a list of all of the providers, and document number 1901 is an overview of our RMLS internet policy. Okay, so you can choose to have RMLS data on your website, but we will need to have the license agreement, and we will need to have the authorized subscriber agreements in place before you can get any of those data feeds. Now, something you need to know with the IDX solution is when searching listings displayed, when search results display listings that are not belonging to your firm, okay, statement needs to appear, okay, that says listing courtesy of, okay, instead of listing agent information. Okay, so for example, it's your website, but it's my listing. Okay, it's going to be listing courtesy of Julia Ryan, instead of it having the information about your agent. So some important forms that you want to make sure that you have on hand, or at least know how to get to easily. Things that we've talked about up to now. Document number 1450, the full version of the rules and regs. 1452, which is the formal rules violation report. Office exclusive and authorization to exclude addendum, which is 1260. Owner name omission and photograph omission. We didn't talk about those much, but in listings, you are required to have the owner's full name in the listing, and you are required to have a photograph of the property within the listing. If your seller asks not to have that information displayed in the listing and asks not to have a photograph, that's their choice. It's perfectly allowable, but you do need to have these forms on file and available for inspection should somebody call and make a complaint. Right. So the next we're going to talk about is admin forms. Okay. These are going to be for your personnel, so your agents, your staff. 1320 is for a brand new agent to coming in. So whether they're moving from another location, or they're a brand new licensee, subscriber registration form is what you're going to need. Now, if you're getting an agent and they're just transferring from another office to your office and they're already an RMLS subscriber, yeah, you can get by with just document number 1322. That one works just great for subscriber change. for transfers. It can also be used when you need to change information about that subscriber. Maybe it's a name change, an email address change on the back end, personal address change. All of those kind of things can be done with the subscriber change form. Now, 1332 is for staff. That would be people that would be coming in, that would be working for the entire office. Okay, so they would be front desk staff that needs RMLS access, data entry staff, office managers, that kind of thing. Then there's 1339, which is a personal assistant change form. Okay, now personal assistant change form. Okay, this personal assistant might be moving from being a personal assistant for agent A to now being personal assistant for agent B. And then there's 1330A, participant agreement, okay, which is just to add a whole new office. So say you decided to leave the office you with, open up your own normal real estate account, you would need to have a participant agreement and add for a new office. And then participant change form is used when the managing broker of record, so the one that we believe is or know to be the person responsible for the office changes. That's what that participant change form is for. Okay, so that we can then know about that. Okay, so things that you need to kind of check off when you have new licensed agents in your office. You need to confirm the membership with an association. Now, the screen says with local association. That's not necessarily the case. It can be any association of realtors, but of course it has to be the same one that your office is registered with as far as association rules are concerned. So if your office is with PMAR, they need to be with PMAR, that kind of thing. They can have any secondary ones that they need, but they do need to be with the same one your office is. But we have a few offices here in Douglas County that don't subscribe to the Douglas County Association of Realtors. They actually participate with the Coos Bay. And, you know, so it's not always the local one that the office belongs to. So you just need to be a member of an association. And of course, you need to submit that aforementioned document number 1320. Okay. And then, of course, you need to stay on top of them and make sure that they take that orientation class within the first 30 days. Now, different associations have different requirements as far as time is concerned for taking their Association of Realtors orientation class. Do not confuse the two. They are entirely different, and they are both required. So you'll need to get a hold of your association to find out what their timeline is. Our time frame is 30 days, okay, but they have to take orientation from both entities. Okay. Okay. Now, if a licensed agent is leaving your office and they're taking their listings with them, you want to make sure that that agent cancels all the listings in your office, right? Otherwise, you'll have to do that for them before they can re-enter those listings at their new location. The MLS numbers don't follow. So if they had MLS number 12345 at your office, okay, that has to be canceled and a new one entered at the new office. They cannot transfer that same 12345 listing over to the new office because the listing belongs to the office, not the agent. So it needs to be canceled here and re-entered over there. So make sure that they cancel all those listings ahead of time. If they're not taking the listings with them, then you'll want to be sure to change the information about that the listing agent to another agent in your office. If they're leaving and they're not moving to another office right away, okay, then you'll want to submit document number 1322, which is that subscriber change form, which is basically terminating their RMLS subscription. You don't want to do that if you know they're transferring to another office, but if they're leaving your office, maybe they're retiring, or they're leaving for health reasons, or they've decided to take on a new career. For whatever reason, they're not going to be in real estate anymore, or not going to be in real estate in this area anymore, then you'll want to make sure that you terminate them from your office. Okay. So just kind of reiterate now, if you're adding a new personal assistant, input staff, or an office manager, now you're going to want to submit 1332, okay, and also submit 1323 if they're licensed but not participating in real estate. Okay, and of course, changes for personal assistants and input staff, you'll do 1339 for personal assistants and 1334 for staff, because they actually have different accesses and have to be done slightly differently. So there's a separate form for them. Okay, this is a really big piece here. And I wish they had the document number, but there is a access levels document in RMLSweb, okay, that has all of this. What this is for personal assistants, input staff, and office managers, each have different levels of access or things that they can do. Okay. So an office manager, for all agents in the office, they can view and add and modify listings. They can view list date, expiration date. They can run inventory reports. They can search all listings. They can access the hot sheet, but of course they cannot use the lockbox access device. Okay, and that person, that office manager, okay, it says build to the office. That means that we're going to build the office for their access. The same thing for your input personnel. We're going to build the office for their access. They pretty much have the same kind of level of access as input staff. So input staff and office managers are pretty much coincide as far as what they're allowed to do. Now, personal assistants are slightly different. For personal assistants, we're going to bill the employee subscribers. So whoever it is that they are the personal assistant for, they're going to get billed for that person. Okay. They can view, add, and modify listings. They can access hot sheets, inventory, modify, can search all listings, but they're doing this for only that one subscriber. That when they log in, they're actually logging in as if they were that particular person, not an agent, not a staff member for the office, but as if they were that agent. Okay, and of course, no one, unless they're licensed and an agent, they can have access to the lockbox access devices. Okay, so now in RMLSweb, okay, you have access to all listings associated with the office. And on this screen here, one of the things that we see a lot, or questions we get a lot at the help desk will be, you know, this agent left, or I need, this agent's no longer, you know, this agent needs to change to that agent, we can't do it. And the principal broker said, I can't do it because I can't see their listings in there. 99% of the time, it's because of this filter option right here in listings, or in progress. Either way, the filter is set and it's got the principal broker's SAID here, which means that it's only going to show the principal brokers or managing brokers information in this listing load page. You want to make sure that the SAID field, the broker code, all of these fields are left blank. Okay, so you want to basically hit clear so that everything is blank. Then select all property categories and all statuses, save criteria and apply. And that way, from that point forward, you will be able to see not only your own personal listings, but the listings of everyone in the office. Of course, you can always come back in here and change it back to just you if you want to see just yours. But if you need to see everything in your brokerage, that's how you're going to go about doing that. Okay. Now, with regards to the broker code, if you manage more than one office, then you will want to use the specific broker code for an office. If you need to be able to do things for the entire office. Okay, so no broker code, you're going to be able to see everything for the entire firm. Put in a specific broker code and you will see everything for that specific office or location. Okay, put in an SAID if you want to see just your thing. Okay. And of course, you can always use the search box to find a specific MLS number or address. Okay. In the case of an agent moving to a new branch, use the edit button to change the broker's SAID. If an agent is moving to a new brokerage altogether, use the status icon to change, to cancel the listing. Now, on occasion, there'll be a situation where a selling agent or the buyer's agent will not be an RMLS subscriber. You know, maybe they came up from Salem or came over from Bend or something like that, but they're, you know, they're an agent, they're not an RMLS subscriber. In that case, you will use, it's now a magnifying glass. It's showing its binoculars on their screenshot, but that's actually now just a magnifying glass. You use that lookup just like you would normally, and you'll type in just the 3 letters NON. And then what will come up is non-RMLS for Oregon or Washington. Okay. And you just fill that, use that, grab it just like you would any other one, and it will allow you to input that in. Okay. So one of the other things that you have access to that agents don't is market share. We have market share agent and market share office. Market share agents allow you to view specific agents' productivity based on whatever criteria you put in there. And you can see from the upper portion here, for this section here, mouse is kind of, you can see all of the different things that you can check, you know, the property categories, the areas or the counties. There's a lot of stuff in here. You can put in an agent code and it'll essentially show you, okay, what that agent's productivity is all about. Okay. Now, market share office, you're going to use that to view the productivity based on the criteria selected for the entire office. Okay, and it doesn't necessarily have to be yours. It can be others in offices as well. So if you wanted, for example, to leave out the office code and just say, okay, I need to see who the best-selling offices were in Douglas County. You could use the areas to put in, or the county option, and put in that location, okay, and then run a search with specific status dates and statuses, you know, sold, just sold, not listed, or both, whichever. And you would get a report that would have the ranking, the office code, the name of the company. Of course, names have been, removed from our screenshot for security purposes or privacy purposes. But you would be able to see everybody's productivity. Okay, all those offices' productivity. So you have that, and that's from statistics. And then under market statistics, where agents just see market trends and market stats, you will see market share agent and market share office. You can also use the inventory report to view listing inventory for specific agent or the entire office. Okay, so this particular report won't give you just numbers, but it will give you details about what listings that one particular agent or particular office has done. So inventory right there, along with listing office and market share agent, market share office, it gives you a lot of the same kind of information, but in a different format. Okay. Okay, so moving on to Central Lock. If you want to give one of your agents Central Lock access, then you need to use document number 1360 to add Central Lock access to an existing subscriber. So say you got a new agent 6 months ago and they say, you know, I'm really just, I want to be a full agent, but I don't need Central Lock right now because I'm not going to be showing, I'm going to be working with a, you know, for whatever reason, they decide they don't want or don't need it. And then later down the road, you know what, I think I need Central Lock after all. You use document number 1360 to add them after the fact. 1360 is already a part of the subscriber registration when somebody comes in as a new agent. Right? They simply choose to fill it out or not at that point. So in Central Lock, you can set up teams and manage the office. Okay, so you have two options when you log into Central Lock and it knows that you're the managing broker. You're going to see, you're going to have an agent account, okay, and then you're also going to have an office account. So depending on which permission you take is going to determine what you see in Central Lock once you get completely logged in. All right. So we're winding down here. So additional help, you probably already know about our help desk, but it never hurts to review. You can call them directly at 503-872-8002. They are available Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Fridays from 8 to 5, and Saturdays from 10 to 2. Don't forget, we have live chat that's available Monday through Friday, 8 to noon and 1 to 5. I have additional training resources, live webinars. You know all about that because you're in one right now. One-on-one training. So if you have a set of specific questions that you have and you look over the training and you say, okay, now I have to take this class, and this class to get all of my questions answered, don't do it. Okay, what you want to do is set up a one-on-one training with a trainer, and then you get to decide. It's a custom class. It's just the two of you, a video thing, and you get your guide what direction that particular session goes. You could decide, these are the questions that I have. It is. A lot of people really, really love it. You know, I just need to learn how to do this one thing. Some people come in and it's just one or two, you know, they come in and they don't even use the full hour. They just come in for 20 minutes or half an hour because they had one specific thing that they weren't grasping or they needed to expand on, or they just wanted to learn out of a 2-hour class. So it's a great, and it's free. All of this stuff is free. And then of course, under the help, we do have a lot of training videos as well. So thank you so much for coming in today and being my, my student. You have a great, great rest of the day. And thank you so much again for coming in.